Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Pachuto, and I'm very excited to have my friend Sheena She, aka the Film Bruja, on the line with us today. Sheena, how are you?
I'm I'm doing a lot better than I was earlier.
That's great. We were
I'm
just
really
talking about
excited.
that.
Yeah.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. I think it's a good place to start where I talk about how we met. So we met probably, man, I guess close to 2 years ago at our mutual friend Jackie's vintage store in, I think it was Clifton, right? Totowa? Totowa.
Totowa.
Totowa, at Jackie's place. And yeah, we just, started following each other on Instagram and gas each other up from time to time when we need it digitally via our, mutual admiration for photography and the love of the art. But why don't you go ahead and just give a little introduction to who you are and kind of how you got here today.
That's such a whenever I get asked that, first off, can you hear me okay?
I hear you great.
Okay. So whenever I get asked that, I never know. I'm always bad with saying all that stuff. Um, to just because I like to call myself like a circus sometimes, just all over the place that has done so many different little things. But I'm known as the film bruja, mostly because I just work with different types of stocks of film. Like that's basically it.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Lodi, New Jersey.
Nice.
And then I moved around. I went to college in like Houston, and then I moved back. I moved back a lot. Jersey is kind of home.
Yeah.
And like recently I just moved back.
Oh, cool.
I was in Texas for 2 years, trying to build out there. But then the pandemic hit and you're just not prepared for things like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy because I would say like the art scene is so vast out there. Like I met with Houston Arts Council, and then again, like the pandemic hit. So it was kind of, where do I go? Did I make the right moves? And every time, my clientele is based here in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just smarter to have moved back.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I never picked up a camera till the pandemic, because that would be a lie. But the pandemic was like a full-on kick in the ass to, this is what you're doing now. Like, this is your thing. This is what you're doing now. And there's no excuse or no complaining because you get to do what you want to do. And it's been really great in that regard. Tell me about, growing up. Like, were you always taking pictures as a kid? Like, how did you, first get into photography?
it definitely was when I was a little kid, just with family photos where, your mom just says, take a picture. And that was me. My family members always passed the camera to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would definitely say documenting middle school and high school, you know,
Via disposables?
friends and disposables and 1 hour photo back then for me.
Yeah. Nice.
Showing my age.
Broadway
But
photo. Yeah. R.I.P. Broadway photo and video.
oh, wait, where'd you grow up?
North Caldwell.
Okay.
So not far from Lodi, yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't have memories of taking a lot of pictures as a kid, but when we were cleaning
Mhm.
out my parents' house when we recently sold the family home, I found all of these developed 35 millimeter photos that I took with disposables, on class trips, at the UN, sixth grade camp, all these places that I was I don't even remember taking pictures. And then it was so funny when you look back at something that you did, and there was a fuckload of pictures. There were so many pictures. And I was like, I don't remember doing this. And I was talking to my mom about it. I was like, she's like, John, you were always having me buy disposable cameras. And I was like, didn't anyone ever think maybe this might be something he's interested in? And I found it so funny because there was obviously a huge gap in my photography because like I must have been running around with disposables, and then at a certain age, I don't know, 14, 15, it kind of went straight to sports, and then you kind of drop some of those like extraneous hobbies and stuff. Obviously not the case for you because you're still crushing it today.
Yeah, actually, something that I guess never left me,
Yeah.
and even even I would say like where you said sports took over your life for a bit. I even yeah, holy cow. I've been just shooting a lot.
That's amazing. So I obviously went from disposables to the digital route like very quickly. Like when I got back into photography, the first thing I did was, because I'm an asshole, I bought a Canon 5D Mark IV, and I was like, because obviously that's what all amateur photographers do. They buy a professional camera, which is absurd, and I'm joking clearly. But you, to your credit, have stuck by and have been shooting exclusively film for like the entirety of your life. So I would love to talk about how, number one, how do you have money to live? And number two,
Oh,
what is it
shoot.
about the medium that hasn't allowed you to like, transcend into digital?
Honestly, not gonna lie, we go through different experiences and moments in our lifetime where I'm not gonna lie, I was anti-digital
Hmm.
for just like a split second until, you start rationalizing that photography, it doesn't matter what medium you use,
Hmm.
right? Um, I think why I love film so much is not only because it's like nostalgic to me and something that I've used for so long. I like the idea. I'm a very, not saying I'm structured, and I'm not saying digital doesn't make you structured, but I like the slow pacedness
Mm.
and kind of thinking. I'm not saying you can't do that with digital because actually my friend lent me a Canon 80D right now, which is what I've kind of started posting when I'm doing like my light painting.
Hmm.
And then before that, I was using just my iPhone. Those are my digital
Hmm.
mediums.
Sure.
Um, but you're right. Like, I don't know why I haven't really picked up a digital camera. I'm not gonna lie. Also, I had one of those like point and shoots, like the Sony Lumix.
Hmm.
Not even Sony. Is it Sony Lumix?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Panasonic
those.
Lumix.
Panasonic.
Yeah.
That's it. It was, and I carry that around with me a lot, like documenting like the art stuff in Newark because that's where I don't want to say I'm like that's where I kind of
Gravitated.
set my roots in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've
So
I've had like an on again, off again love affair with film. Getting back on it a little bit, mostly medium format for like my portrait work. Um, it's funny. I was talking to there's a photographer who lives on my floor. He's 22. I'm going to be 36 in 2 weeks, and he shoots exclusively film. He does have a Canon R6, so he does do digital work because he's in school right now for photography. And we were talking about it, and I was like, it's funny, a lot of my favorite shots when I'm like in studio or just shooting with a model, it's all those in between moments where they're just letting their guard down. It's happening either right before or right after, quote unquote, the pose. And you don't get that on film. Like every film shot that I've ever taken is incredibly intentional. And it's like, okay, this is a $3 photo, right? So it's like it has to be intentional. So it's like I have to be very mindful of like what I'm doing with it. And I think I love them both in distinct of one of the other. Like they both serve different purposes for me creatively, but there's something about the way that I can much quicker like react to a moment digitally than I can with film that makes me, I mean, obviously, if it's a professional gig, I'm shooting digital. But if it's for my own personal work, I gravitate towards digital and supplement with film because I'm afraid that I'm gonna miss the thing that I'm looking for if I shoot just film. And like for years, I was shooting just film, like thousands of rolls. I traveled across the U.S. I shot 100 and something rolls on a 30-day trip. Like I was shooting like 10 rolls, so many rolls. And I just have this weird kind of thing right now where the first camera I always pick up is my digital. Like it's like not even a question anymore for me. Do you have that relationship with gear, or for you is it just like whatever you choose to use, you're using, you don't think about it at all?
I have a dedicated camera that I feel very comfortable with, and it's always my Pentax ME
Mm.
that I use a lot. Um, so I started bringing back the cameras that I left in Texas back here in Jersey because I don't want to just be a camera hoarder and have all these cameras that I picked out the ones that I know I really liked how the outcome was.
Hmm.
So I have four of them right now. I'm just
Nice.
like, but I I do have a designated camera that I feel like two designated cameras that I feel comfortable with that I'll bring on shoots
Hmm.
that have been like my trusty cameras. I would love to invest in a medium format. That's like the equipment part that I want to invest in. But as far as me having like different lenses, I really don't. I kind of stick with 50 millimeter. I kind of dabbled in 24 and I really like that.
It's so wide.
But I know
There is something
I like,
super special. Oh, I was gonna say there's something super special about 24 millimeter, very close with your subject huge in the frame, but like expanse. There's something I really love about that. But like if like I do a lot of street photography, and for some
mhm.
reason that 24 to 28 millimeter has become like the focal length of choice for street photographers. And I feel like if you're trying to paint the picture of a scene, 35 is the way to go. And if you're super wide and shooting 28 and you don't have like a very close foreground kind of subject, the scene doesn't speak to me in any way. I'm losing a lot on whatever the entirety of the image is versus like this is what the subject is. This is what I want you to focus on. Um, but yeah, I love that vantage point for sure. I struggled for years of like trying to hone in on gear, right? Like if only I have a Leica M6, I'll be the best photographer in the world. So I bought a Leica, shot hundreds of rolls through it, 1,000 rolls through it, whatever. It was like my
Did
pride
you
and
like the outcome?
so I like two things about it: the ease of use, the process of shooting was very visceral. Like I liked the process of tactilely changing knobs and apertures and like everything that you do to compose a shot with a Leica. I
Right.
enjoyed. Missing focus on a rangefinder is super annoying when you're going to develop, and that
Hmm.
frustrated me a lot. And then I also felt at times like that was the benefit of shooting film. It doesn't have to be a tactile perfect image for it to be a great image. But it frustrated me a lot at times too because I think it was I loved it, and I sold it last year because I just wasn't shooting it. And if I win the lottery, would I buy another one? Yeah. Would it be the first camera that I pick up every time I go to shoot? I don't know. I don't think so. I think you need to
You,
have some sort of relationship with your tool, and it sounds
yes,
like you do.
absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you, because you said when you were shooting film, you definitely had more intention in each frame.
Hmm.
So when you were strictly shooting film, did you, so what I'm trying to get at is sometimes I look back at my old photos where it wasn't intentional, but like the way I captured it, I kind of always try to go back in that time because I feel like those were like really great photos.
Yeah.
And sometimes when my pictures are too structured, I don't like that feeling. That's why I kind of have my passion projects that I try to do because of the fact that I don't like when it's so structured looking.
Well, you and I differ greatly in that you are an incredibly creative person. I am not. I was having a conversation with a photographer friend recently, and I was trying to hone in on. They have a very visceral style of photograph. It's like a lot of nude, a lot of black and white, a lot of very like
Mhm.
stark images of like nude men and women in nature, and just like the song and dance between like man and nature. And I find it all like beautiful work, but it's not something that I could ever create. And he was asking me, he's like, what do you do? Like, what do you try to like do when you take a picture?
Like emulate, right? What
Right.
you're.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I didn't really have an answer. It's like, I don't care what like, I'll shoot a concert, I'll shoot a sporting event, I'll shoot a wedding. That's a lie. I won't shoot a wedding, but I will shoot.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I won't shoot a wedding. Um, but like
Oh.
I will shoot anything, and I get the same like high when I'm done. Like I get the
Okay.
same um rush. Like when I recently shot Gin Blossoms at the Wellmont Theater in Montclair, and I shot 25 photos in like 5 seconds when they came on, and like my heart was like definitely at like 100 beats per minute. And then like I had a girl in my apartment. I've got like a at home studio, and the first 5 photos, same thing, heart rate on 100. It's just the act of doing it that hypes me up. I wish I was creative like you. I don't have My biggest struggle is the creative aspect of my art, like figuring out what I'm trying to say in a story via an image. And you don't have that problem at all. So I'm very curious, like how you come up with these absolutely stunning visuals that are just like totally unique and creative to yourself.
Uh, Thank you.
You're
um,
welcome.
um, I think it has a lot to do with my background in makeup. I was a makeup artist for a good amount of years. And I was in the fashion industry. So I think it has a lot to do with that because I love that whole behind the scenes, getting everything together. I like curating. So a lot of that I do give props to being just through New York City and doing all like makeup.
Hmm.
Um, and also, I consider myself an artist and having such talented artist friends that we kind of feed off of each other. And I think being around that will give you what you need to like uh, create things differently or uniquely. I also love other visuals where I'll scroll on Instagram or Pinterest. Like I get a lot of inspiration from that because at the end of the day, we all create the same thing, just translated differently.
Hmm. Oh, I like
So,
that.
yeah, so I take a lot of inspiration from, I'm such a visual person that I have to look at things visually, and it it's whatever my eye likes.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. Like I get inspired on a daily basis. I think what my biggest struggle is probably just like imposter syndrome. Like I
Mhm.
still in the back of my mind, it's like, who am I to think that I can do this? Like it's something that I try and try and try to overcome. And it's like for the first 5 seconds of every shoot, I feel like a fraud. And then like when I'm editing images, oh my God, poor Jackie, poor any of my photographer friends. I'm always like, oh, do you like this edit? Like, what do you think about this one? And it's because I think I'm still learning and I'm still growing as an artist, trying to figure out like what am I trying to say with my photography. And I think it's like anything when you're doing it only for a few years. Like I don't know what I'm trying to say yet. Like I know without a question the story I'm trying to tell when I'm shooting street photography. I know what I'm doing when I'm walking the streets and taking photos. But when I'm like creating with a model or I have a subject and we're working through something together, that's where I feel like a bit of a fraud. That's where I struggle with my identity as an artist. Do you ever have those kind of feelings, struggling like
Oh,
imposter syndrome?
all the time,
Yeah.
especially when not more lately, it was definitely like the beginning of this year, just because for a long time I kind of, not for a long time, but during the pandemic, I chose a different route where I kind of rested, where I knew trying to gather people in Texas was hard enough because of the pandemic. So I sought other hobbies. I was like making other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that happened, I had this burst of inspiration and where I would just use my handy dandy iPhone and I
Nice.
started taking self portraits a lot during the pandemic. Um, so my imposter syndrome was, am I still the film bruja? Like,
If I'm using an iPhone.
exactly. And because I wasn't shooting anything on film, and I feel like what makes me feel that way is because I wasn't constantly putting content on Instagram or my socials that was film.
Mm.
And uh, I had to step back and like, check in with myself and say, yes, of course I'm still the film bruja. Being an artist, we always feel pressured to put out, to say we actually did something or get that instant gratification.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
But honestly, I think it's okay to step away from constantly putting things out, to hone in, and also normalize that it's okay. You don't have to always put things out because you're still John. You still are the photographer. I'm still Sheena. I am still the film bruja, regardless whatever medium I use.
I do know. I'm so
And
glad you said that because I had like one of my very, very first, I want to say like inspirations from photography was this guy named Jason Roman, aka at Stock Easy on Instagram. And I stumbled upon him on YouTube. I was lucky enough to have him on my podcast recently. And it was like kind of those weird, surreal moments where like someone you meet online who I met in person is now like a person that I'm sharing an hour conversation with. It was incredible. But the most poignant thing he said, and I'm glad you mentioned Instagram, he's like, listen, if Instagram disappears tomorrow, like, are you still a photographer? Right. And I was like, yeah, of course. I'm still going to take pictures. I'm still going to do whatever. He's like, you need to start worrying more about what you're doing and how you're creating and be like intentional with what you're doing for your art, and fuck Instagram. He's like, that shit could get turned off tomorrow. There could be another XYZ. And I feel like that's a very, very poignant and very, very fair sentiment for a person who's got a very large social media following, is a Leica ambassador. Like, they've checked a lot of boxes in their life. We're like a month apart in age, right? And it's funny to me because we're in like two different places. We've got the same occupation. And I still struggle with that. I still look at my Instagram followers, like how many likes I'm getting and shit. Like, do you worry about that at all, or you don't give a shit?
I don't give a shit. I actually started hiding my likes.
Oh,
I feel like those are the things that help you mentally.
you're going to have to tell me how to do that.
Okay, I will. But it helps with, when you get into your field, it really does help. I also keep like off my like my screen
Mm-hmm.
where
It's not on
I
your home
kind
screen, right?
of yeah, kind of thing. Just because I know how it is. We can easily engulf ourselves, and our self-confidence can kind of get broken with whatever we see, obviously, but also it's really important for my mental health. I understand the fact that I don't have to compare myself, because I can compare myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't, that's why I hid my likes, because I'm okay with the fact that whoever likes it, that's cool. It made an impact on the amount of people that liked it. I don't need to know how many liked it.
No, I like that. No, I do genuinely like that. And I often say, like, my biggest issue and hurdle, and like I'm very cognizant of it, is that I'm comparing my chapter 4 or 5 with someone else's chapter 30, right? Like I've not been doing this long enough. I've not been uh, really going at this professionally as like a career besides a
Hmm.
hobby for a very long period of time. So for me to compare, the first stage of my story to someone else who's like, writing the end of their book, it's not fair to me. It's not fair to what I can do from a creative perspective, and it's just going to hurt me in the long run, for
Exactly,
sure.
because we all have our own timeline.
Absolutely. I read a really interesting kind of expose on Jeremy Strong. I don't know. Do you watch Succession?
No.
Okay, Succession HBO show. The guy's like in his
Okay.
mid 40s, but right around 33, 34, 35, he was getting like all these like really really low level jobs on films and TV shows, like one liners here and there. And he was like, I think I just have to give up. He's like, this is not for me. Like, I'm not getting a break. And there was like this, I wish I could remember like what exactly the quote was. It was something to the extent of he was like asking himself over and over again, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, what am I like? I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm getting nowhere. I'm getting nothing. And like a week later or whatever, he gets Succession, which is like this major show. He's one of the 4 main characters. It's huge for him. And like he had done other stuff before that, but like this was like the big, big break for him. And I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, I'm stressing myself out over something I've been doing for literally a handful of years and wondering why I'm not shooting the cover of Vogue. Like, what fucking ego is that? Like, that's just ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just funny, and I think it's nice. Like, I've started to kind of build a community of like people that I can confide in and talk to, and it's a creative group of people that can like lift me up when I'm feeling shitty and give me positive feedback and give me negative feedback and give me the things that I need to hear about my work that like starts making me be more kind of present in what I'm trying to create. Did you have like a mentor growing up or anybody who like impacted you from a creative perspective?
You know, I mean, aside from, I would say my friends, I am still looking for a mentor. So no, but I would say my friends definitely, they're all different types of artists. And yeah,
Hmm.
I
Do you
still
look
looking for one though.
Yeah. Do you look back at your journey as a photographer? Is there any like major, I don't want to use the word accomplishment, but just like something that you look back on, whether it was like a series that you worked on, a creative series, a magazine, something that you worked on that you're like, holy shit, that was like a surreal kind of moment. That's something I'm like super proud of.
I would say when I did New York Fashion Week for Tumblr,
Cool.
that was a really good opportunity. I got, and what I liked about it was they gave us the schedule. We can pick whichever designer we wanted to see or whatever show. So when I got to see um, like Anna Sui, that was, I love, I've always loved her clothes. That was a really good show. I got to see Jeremy Scott and do like I went I went straight behind the scenes because I love I love I got to see Pat McGrath. It was an amazing moment as a makeup artist. But I loved the moments behind the scene to see I'm just really big on seeing how everything gets put together.
Hmm.
As opposed to like the final show. I like that whole crazy chaotic, but everything's so creative at the same time. So I would say, yeah, that moment was um, something I would say, wow, I actually did that because I had stuff featured on, that was my milk studio stuff. My stuff on Anna Sui's website. I mean, Instagram. So like things like that was was what I enjoyed,
That's
and
cool.
a my resume kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. So I was talking to my dad. I got lunch with my dad today. He was like, "Do you have like a photographer business card or like a photographer resume?" I was like, no." I was like, "My website, I guess Instagram, but like no, not really." I was like, "That's really interesting because like if I met someone out, I wouldn't be like, yeah, this is." I would tell them what I've done, but it wouldn't be able to show them what I've done. Right? It's very funny that you said like your resume. It just like really resonated with me because I was like, I wouldn't be able to tell anyone. I'd be like, go to my website. But like, yeah, very funny. Um, I find that you have like just such a truly unique, like amazingly cool creative style. And I'm kind of curious how you got into it, right? And also like, how do you take something that is so uniquely your own and like, how are you able to maintain that and keep it going? And like what gives you confidence to continue to work on this like incredible, obviously podcast is not the best way to talk about your photographs, but I'm just genuinely curious like how that process is like kind of shaping for you.
I would say I have never lost my inner child. Um, and I'm 38 years old. I'm going to be 39 in a few weeks,
Oh, when's your birthday?
and January 8th.
Okay, I'm December 17th. Happy birthday.
Okay. Thank you. Happy birthday to
Thank
you.
you.
Um, so I it's because of my imaginative mind that I still hold dearly. And I think in a lot of my images, sometimes I have, it's not really like fairy tale-ish. It's
Hmm.
more, um, but you can tell there's like an inner child or something that is
I would say there's like an ethereal nature to it.
right. I feel like it's all in the personality that I am.
Hmm.
I believe in magic, and bruja is a part of me. I'm very spiritual, so I would say it's this big melting pot of my personality and who I am that I've kind of never changed. Um, this is me genuinely,
That's
and
awesome. I mean, that's so rare
so
for a creative person to say, right? Because I feel like everyone, there was like that period of time where everyone on Instagram had like clarity on 1,000%, and like every image was like you could see every individual hair follicle, right? And like everything was super punchy. And then it went to the
right.
film look and like the digital recreation of film. And it's like everyone's kind of doing the same thing in a different
Mhm.
kind of sort of off shaded way. And you're doing something completely differently on your own and not like differentiating from that at all. And I think that's so fucking cool.
I just try to I always just try to never be so serious. And I know people can judge you for being, oh, this different person, but we're all, I hate that because we're all freaking different.
Yeah, duh.
Um, but I just, even if I have like little fears, I always push through that and know that this is just how I am, and this is the beat that I have always walked on.
Yeah, that's cool.
And but again, sometimes, we can be really hard on ourselves with like imposter syndrome. So trust me, it's this constant battle, but you just push through.
You try. do you do you have like so I got to a point where I was shooting like pretty much exclusively Portra 400 Tri-X and like Cinestill 800T. Do
Mhm.
you have go-to film stocks or do you just like go buy whatever and shoot whatever?
Um, I was the person who bought whatever and shot whatever until you start, racking up those dollars, and you're just like, what the hell? I need to be more intentional
Yeah.
with my shots.
Well, at
So
least my
that's why.
wallet.
Exactly. Um, so yes, there are go-to stocks, especially when I'm capturing weddings, a client that is paying you money, and just because portrait for, so my thing is portrait for 100. I know there's like a lot of hate on that because people like say Ektar does the same exact thing. I love Kodak Ektar, but like not so much in like the portrait aesthetic that I want it to look like.
I agree.
So that's why I go with portrait.
Yeah, I think just portrait's got like a skin tone magic. Like there's
I
something.
think
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So, so those are things, those are the stocks that I go with. But what was the other one? Fuji, but they just discontinued it.
Oh, 400H or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
I used to love that for weddings. So beautiful.
I just shot a roll of it. I have 4 rolls of that Fuji 400.
Did you like it?
I didn't get developed yet. I shot my first one.
Okay.
I only have 4 of it in 120, and I shot it like literally last week. I didn't get it. I didn't drop it off at the lab yet. I don't. Oh, so that's like another thing. Like I don't develop my own film. How does that make you feel? Oh yes, yay! Oh, that makes me so happy.
Honestly, I would love, and I always tell myself every year, I'm going to start developing my own. I just don't have the time.
Yeah. Listen, people talk so much shit. You're not a real film photographer. You don't develop your own film. That's bullshit. I was like, I was shooting fucking 50 rolls a week for like a year. I'm a real film photographer. I was broke. Like, I get it. Like, I'm a fucking film photographer. Like, lick my.
Oh my God.
butt.
That's just like the pretentious part in film photography.
For
but
sure.
let's be real, you know?
Let's be real. If you had enough money, you would send it out to a lab and let them give you high-res scans. I actually do have a scanner. I scan my own film. There's something super important to me about scanning my own film. Plus, that was like $150, and the chemicals are super expensive. I don't know how to store them. I don't know how to keep them. I don't know how long to agitate that shit. I don't have a dark room. I don't have the ability to do this shit. Like, I'm sorry. Black and white.
You know what I worry about? I don't know how to dispose them.
Yeah, neither do I.
I'm like, do I flush it down the drain? Like, what do you do with it?
No
I think
idea.
that's bad for the environment. No?
For sure. Oh, well, that's the other thing. Like, people who shoot film, they're so pretentious about shit like that. And film photography is like legit the worst thing in the world for the environment.
Right.
It is so bad.
For the freaking footprint, man.
Yeah, it's hysterical. I mean, listen, I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like, there were times where I would, like, probably like the 3rd or 4th roll, I rolled through my, like, I was walking around New York City, and I was walking to Port Authority, and I saw this guy with a cowboy hat on and no shirt. He was sitting on a chair playing the guitar, and I shot a whole roll of him, the entire roll of film. I think it was Portra. And I was like, these are going to be fucking bangers. He didn't give a shit. I was like close up on him. I was shooting 35 millimeter focal length. And like, it was great. It was like, I had bangers in there that I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get these fucking dropped off and developed. And when I went to click the rewind lever and I started rewinding the spool, it stopped. And I was like, oh fuck. So I went to like do it a little bit more, and I was like, I'm going to break this. Nothing happened, right? So it was like stuck. It was super, super stuck. So like half of the roll was back in the canister and the other half was on like the leader, right? So I was like, okay, this is fine. Put my lens cap back on, put it back in my bag, and I went straight to my lab. And I was like, listen, the roll's shot and half is in the canister and the other half is on the leader. You just have to like pull it out in the dark bag and like get it out. And they're like, oh, sure, this happens all the time. No big deal. You give them my camera. They go in the back. They're like, we got it. No big deal. It should be fine. They developed the roll, and it was blank. And I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry. Yeah, I wanted to cry.
I know.
And
I know that feeling so well.
And the truth is, Sheena, that was part of like the allure to film, because like you never know what you have, right? And then when you start when I would start scanning my negatives, I'd be like blown away by these images that I took. Like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe I did that. Or like you forget about an instance, because it was primarily street photography. So I'd be like, oh, I forgot about taking that frame. And it was so rewarding and it was so grueling at the same time that I had this like, I don't know, like this clash between my love and my angst for it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like all the film mishaps that can happen, and you still wonder why you still go back to it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I have a Hasselblad 500 cm medium format camera.
Ooh.
It's my pride and joy, and I love it. Like I every time I take a picture of it in front of someone, I'm like, do you hear that sound? That sound, the thump, like the actuation of the mirror is the most satisfying sound on planet Earth. And I had a Mamiya 6, and that was
Hmm.
the cool YouTube camera. And I hated it.
Right?
I hated it. I genuinely hated it. I didn't want a rangefinder medium format camera. I wanted something that was going to be slow and clunky and be very, very intentional. And I was rolling through 120 millimeter film on this fucking Mamiya, and I was like, this is stupid. I was like, I'm just blowing through film. So I've got the Hasselblad, and I have Canon Elon 7, which is like kind of like a sort of autofocus ish SLR, and like some
Okay.
other, I've got like a Nikon F something that was my dad's from like the 70s or something, and a bunch of other film cameras. But I still struggle mightily with like gear acquisition. Like I still want to buy other shit. And I don't know what it is about this career, hobby, whatever passion you want to call it, that I can't ever find myself being content with what I have. And I'm curious if you ever feel that way.
Yeah, it's like my uh it's like now that I have all these tattoos, I told myself I don't want any more tattoos.
Yeah.
So so it's good. It's going strong. 3 years, no tattoos.
Nice.
So it's the same with cameras. I haven't bought any new cameras just because I want to be able to use the ones that I have and not say perfect a photo with it, but harness it, know it. Aside from my Pentax ME
Mm-hmm.
that I carry around with me all the time,
Mm-hmm.
I want to have another relationship with my cameras that I neglect and it collects dust.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I haven't bought a camera, but if I were to, I would love a medium format.
Nice. Do you have
That
one in
I would.
mind?
Uh, mm, no, but I mean, the Hasselblad is the one that I really would love.
Yeah.
Um,
They're weirdly still affordable. Like I bought mine a couple years ago, and the price I paid and the price they are now, it's like very close to the same, which is surprising because every
oh,
other
okay.
film camera is like 10x
Oh,
higher. It's
yeah.
crazy, yeah. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
listen, I love my Hasselblad. There is something so magical about that lens and that
yeah.
shutter and just everything about it that I can't help but be inspired when I pick it up. I would recommend anyone own one, just shoot one
I
and
just
fuck around
love
with it.
the, I just love how it's just something about it. It's so sexy.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I got it because it's super sexy too, but yeah.
For real, I'm always just like, damn, medium format just always captures it so much differently than 35 millimeter,
Yeah, there is like I mean the scan size. So for people who aren't listening, 35 millimeter is probably about 1 inch by 1 inch, and medium format is 120 millimeters, which is probably about, depending on the camera, 3 inches by 4 inches, roughly the size of the film negative, and the clarity differentiation between the two are night and day. The
Right.
detail in the images are night and day, and you can get a really great 35 millimeter image, but you just couldn't blow it up to the same size as a medium format.
Exactly.
But yeah, there is something special about it. I have been shooting. I probably haven't shot. Oh no, that's a lie. I do take my 35 millimeter camera with me when I shoot concerts because I like to shoot 800T Cinestill when I'm there because you never know what you're gonna get with that. Um,
Right.
I feel like I've had like a pretty crazy journey over the last year and a half with photography, and I've been started to check off like a bunch of like my quote unquote bucket list things, like dreams that I had when I sat down to like kind of map out what I was going to do with this career. What is your biggest dream that you have yet to achieve with photography?
Oh, uh, That's a good question. Biggest dream. I really thought it was, I would say in my earlier days, I was always trying to pursue being published on like something editorial. And honestly, I would say I've done that.
Hmm.
It's just not like Vogue or,
Sure.
and those are the small wins that I always try to always remember that it doesn't have to be to that extent. Um, but right now, I don't know. I can't really answer that because I'm content right now with uh kind of experimenting. I know my friend Rosemary was like, make a calendar. Actually, you know what? A photo book.
Ooh, nice.
I lie. I have always wanted to do a photo book. I just kind of I overthink where I or
What goes in and what doesn't?
that, and like I procrastinate because I'm feel like, oh, I can always just like put that in the back burner. But definitely that is one thing that I need to do and would love, like, that is a goal
Mm,
of mine,
I love
you know?
that. Yeah, similar. I did one for myself. Like I did like a zine for myself, and
Hmm.
I look at it every now and then. I'm thinking like, wow, that was really shitty, but also like cool. Like I did my own little thing. I do definitely one day want to have my own photo book, and like maybe multiple. Like I don't need to stop at one. I've also started
Exactly.
printing more of my work, and the the act
Good.
of printing out your stuff is like it's
Important.
it's so important. It changes it changed my view on my work in a manner that I didn't expect, because like we were talking about Instagram, some of my favorite
Hmm.
photos that I've ever taken have the least amount of likes, and it's
Hmm.
probably because like one of them is like a homeless woman behind her cart. Like it's such a powerful image and it never gets likes, and it's because it's like, a homeless person
In
is.
this tiny, no, because it's in this tiny ass
Well, yeah,
screen.
yeah, that too. That too.
And
So I printed
um
that, and it
mhm,
was like, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is fucking beautiful. I was like, I did that.
exactly. You have a different appreciation for your work than seeing it in a screen. Because whenever I view something, let's say even just on my laptop, that's just a little bit bigger than, it looks so much better. And I'm just like, and then when you post it on Instagram, you're like, this isn't what I saw. Or,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I feel like, and that's another thing is our best photos have the least likes
Oh,
because
always.
I'm the same way. I'm just like, this is such a good photo. Why isn't it? I don't get it. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
said it earlier. You're gonna have to teach me how to turn likes off, because I just don't need to see that anymore. I also have to start realizing like I've put I've like put a lot of effort into quote unquote growing on social media, and
Hmm.
I have to remind myself very often that that's not real. Like social media is not real. So often we're showing a highlight reel. So often we are, um, putting our best foot forwards when there's so much more behind our art. And I've got to realize like it just doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if I have 55 million followers or 5,000. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you just need people who support you, people who care about you, people who appreciate your work, and then just keep doing that.
Right. Just have fun and honestly, we have our own timelines. We have our own, whatever happens, we never know. But like to me, social media, I would say, kind of just makes things toxic within us as artists, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it leads
Um,
directly to imposter syndrome. I do get inspired by it. Don't get me wrong, because like when I look at people's work like you
you
and
use it
and
as fuel.
yeah, no, I do. I really do, because there's so many amazing people doing amazing things that genuinely does inspire me. And then I
Mhm.
get creative and I'm like, okay, I need to go do something today. That's like maybe less than half the time. For sure. So we're kind of approaching the end of the year. So I'm very curious what 2022 has in store for the film Bruja.
So I've been trying to ground myself more. So this is me going back into my bruja ways. I am trying to just go into 2022 with more of the intentions of prosperity and abundance, and also knowing that those have different meanings for everybody,
Mm.
right? Like for me, it goes beyond the factor of just, I'm getting I'm getting my dollars and whatever. That is not what I'm saying. But hey, if it does happen, that's cool too.
Hmm.
Um, but abundance in whether it be um more opportunities as a photographer, abundance and putting out the goals that, let's say, making a book, and you know I'm trying to be more, I'm getting older, so my outlook is totally different, and my experiences have been experienced, so
Oh, what a
it's
terrible mindset. That's terrible. Number one,
no.
you're not old, and your experiences. These are not things. This
No. I know. I'm not old. I'm not. Oh my God, I sounded like no, but I'm just saying,
the
like,
film
I
Bruja is
have.
secretly 94 years old. Right? Like,
That's exactly. That's why I'm called the film bruja, because everyone's always just like, "How old are you?
yeah.
What?" It's like, I know. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm supposed to look like. Um, but anyway, but yeah. So I'm just trying to have. What I'm just trying to say is just 2021 was such a chaotic year for me, for the ever since I moved back, that now is like the time that I just feel like there's this big release for me.
Hmm.
And I'm going, I'm learning a lot of different things, like as far as like videography. I trying to like go outside of different boxes, and I'm really excited to just travel in a different path, and not saying I'm leaving, film, but kind of growing as a photographer with different mediums as well,
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been dabbling with video. It's all right. It's all right. My philosophy on video is that like I could see myself creating documentaries or like short documentaries and
Yes.
like being super into that. Do I want to produce like movies? No. Do I want to like work in film or TV? No. But like do I want to
Right.
maybe tell short form documentary style videos with like very shitty editing, very shitty music, very shitty audio? Yeah, like I could fuck with that. But like I've been recently doing a little bit of video, and like the editing process, the whole workflow, it's not filling me up as creatively as I thought it would. And every photographer who I know who's now a videographer is always like, video is so much better. And I'm just not there yet. And like, I'm sure like
Right.
possibly I'll get there, but like, I'm just not there yet. For me, it's like in a world where we're constantly bombarded with video on every social media, TV, everywhere we look, I like the act of viewing still images. There's something about an image, still image, that still like jazzes me up. That's like what I love. So it's going to be hard to fall in love with video. I think will be difficult.
Understood. I mean, I've dabbled in it, not in the aspect of having like, using one of these, like
Yeah.
to, I've done things on my phone, and even like doing little clips, short clips. I liked that. I think I'm more of, I would say, a short clip kind of person as
Mm-hmm.
well, like you. Or like a short film, I think I would do well in. Um, Movies. I love movies, but
Me too, but I don't want to make them. You know what I mean?
I feel like maybe one day, but I'm okay if it's like a short
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm hopefully, weather permitting, doing a photo shoot on Sunday. And like I have in my mind some like short, video shots that I'm going to include with the photos that will tell a story, right? But I'm not trying to like, I'm a videographer now. I'm a movie maker. That's not me.
Oh, same.
Yeah, for sure. So I like to spend the last bit of every podcast doing sort of like a rapid fire Q&A.
Okay.
Some of the questions are super easy. Some of them are like a little heavy, but first thing
Is this the wrong advice part?
no. The wrong advice part is it's a pun. It's like the purpose of the pun is that there is no wrong advice. There is no wrong way to go about living your life. It's what makes you happy and like how you see your life as being fulfilled. And I think the wrong advice is that there's nobody that I'm going to ever have on this podcast that's going to tell you the right way to live your life. That's up to you to figure out. Cut the promo, print, that's a wrap. That was really good. I'm very proud of myself. I just came up with that just now. So my first question for you is, what is your favorite book?
Oh, so The Giver.
Ooh,
That was
nice.
one of my favorite books.
Yeah, good
That was
book.
one of my favorite books. Yes.
What is your favorite movie?
Beetlejuice.
Really? Oh, nice. First time I've heard that. I like that. What's your favorite food?
It would be my dad's cooking. My dad and my mom's cooking, but definitely my dad's cooking.
Any particular dish?
Yes, I'm Filipino, and my favorite dish from my dad is called kare kare, and it's an oxtail stew in like peanut butter.
Oh,
Like the sauce has peanut butter in it. It's not just like you dump peanut butter, but
yeah,
it's so good with white rice. So good.
nice. Do you believe in an afterlife?
I I I do actually, just for the fact of um I believe in, I believe in like reincarnation,
Mm-hmm.
different traveled souls. So yeah, why not? I
Yeah.
believe in the afterlife.
It's funny. I've this is going to be somewhere around my 60th episode, like 58 or something like that. And of all the
Mhm.
people I've asked that question, the amount of people who've said no are very small. Like I think maybe one or two. And the vast
Oh,
majority of
okay.
people do. And it's funny. We live in such a shitty world and it's so chaotic and depressing that so many people believing in something more is kind of oddly reassuring. There's hope for us yet.
Yes.
What inspires you?
Mm, what inspires me? I would say, as cheesy as it sounds, you know, waking up and just kind of going through my day is inspiring. I try to kind of meditate a little, so it definitely makes the inspiration flow. I have an odd affinity of just being like, oh, the sky looks really great, or I don't know. I would say just the environment, whatever you put me in, inspires me.
I like that. Seems like you're living a very content life, and I'm very glad to hear that. Are you happy?
Sometimes.
Are you happy?
At this moment I am, but sometimes it's okay when, I'm a sad girl por vida, so sometimes I get into my feels. But for the most part, yeah, I am happy.
That's great. We were talking before we got online, and I was saying I just had a shitty day. Like it was like one of those
Exactly.
like blah days where I just never really was able to pull myself out of the blah mentality, and like that's okay. Like not every day is going to be the best day of your life, but how you view that,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, exactly. What's your biggest fear?
Biggest fear. Oh man. Sometimes so I get anxiety. I'm
Mm,
gonna just put that out there because who doesn't?
right.
Um, I would say one of my, and it's weird because I don't know where it stemmed from, and I'm okay now, but like just thinking about death sometimes, you're
Oh
just
yeah.
like,
I'd rather
it
not.
just, yeah, exactly. But like sometimes it creeps up on you. You're just like, why did I have that thought? Or,
Yeah.
it's just those like little fears of the unknown, especially, you know, with life now.
Yeah.
And you're just exactly. So
I think
yeah.
that's fair. I would say my most irrational fear in life is death, because it. And I say irrational because like I'm gonna die. Like there's nothing that's gonna stop that from happening. So it's like almost like you need to like. I've been working on like just succumbing to the fact that like that's not a thought I need to worry about anymore, because like it's eventually gonna happen. You spend your whole life worrying about dying. Is it gonna really get you anywhere? No, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best piece of advice someone's ever given you?
Would come from it came from my creative writing teacher in high school, which I think I carried throughout till this day. So what's funny is my major is creative writing, creative writing, English literature focused in creative writing.
Wow.
So she was like an inspiration for me to kind of had that major. I dropped out. So but what she said to me was how unique I am. She told me never to change. Like she saw some sort of potential in me, and it's not in the writing. It's just I guess like my whole aura. So I kind of always appreciated that, someone out there saw uniqueness in me and told me that in high school, because we were always so, in high school years, you're always so afraid to be unique.
Oh yeah.
And so I would say that is why I am the way I am till this day.
That's awesome.
Just not afraid to just be who you are.
That's awesome. I like that. Last question. What is one recommendation that you have for everyone hearing you on this podcast for the first time of something that you've consumed recently? Could be a movie, a TV show, a book, a podcast, documentary, anything. Just something that you've recently consumed that you think everyone should check out.
Okay, so I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and I love comedy podcasts.
Me too.
I feel like it stems away from, I guess, what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a clown. I'm down to clown. So so my go-to podcasts that I always like talk about are Tiger Belly and Bad Friends. But my one friend recently put me on something called Make Art, Not Content. It's usually less than 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And I believe it's the guy who did like he was a photographer. He did Party something.
Okay.
Oh my God, I forgot. I'm blanking out, but I know him because he used to take photos in New York City, I believe, and it would be like MySpace era.
Oh.
Around that time.
Okay.
But he said he has what I enjoy about it is he talks about imposter syndrome. He has like those different kinds of topics that he touches on, especially on how we feel about Instagram, or like you don't have to always put out all these contents. Like his first episode is called Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just it helped me at a time where I had to kind of go back to being present again as an artist. And what I liked about it is it's not that long, it's to the point, and it makes you think. It's like a good morning kind of listen.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check that out. I've been recently rewatching Fleabag. I don't know if you ever saw it on Amazon. It's fucking the best show. And I was
what
like,
is it?
It's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's a comedian, writer, whatever. And I don't even know how to describe the show. She is a 30-something single woman in London, and she's just a mess of a human being. And the show is about the mess of her life. And it's so fucking good. It is hysterical and tragic and wonderful and a train wreck, and it's just the best. And like it ended a few years ago, and I watched it. Like I think it's only like 3 or 4 seasons, and I started rewatching it this week, and I was like, holy shit, why have I not done this before? You know, you rewatch Office a million times, but this shit is just so funny. So definitely check that out. Sheena, thank you so much for coming on today. I had so much fun with our chat. I'm so glad and so appreciative of your time. Got a very cheesy line. If you've been on the podcast, you're now part of my family. So thank you so much for your time, and I really enjoyed our chat.
Same. I'd love to come on again. It's really nice. I don't know. I really like having this conversation, and you know, you're mad cool, and it's real. You get everybody talking to just come out and not. I don't know. I just like how it's a good, real conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's so kind. You will come on again. I'm trying to do everybody like 6 months to a year later, so we'll definitely do this again. Thank you so much, Sheena. Take care.
Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.